Hearing is 1 to 10, Exodus chapter 2. If you don't have it, it's also on the screen. I'm reading from the New International Version of the Bible. Now a man of the house of Levi married a Levite woman, and she became pregnant and gave birth to a son. When she saw that he was a fine child, she hid him for 3 months. When she could hide him no longer, she got a papyrus basket for him and coated it with tar and pitch. And she placed the child in it and put it among the reeds along the bank of the Nile. His sister stood at a distance to see what happened to him. When Pharaoh's daughter went down to the Nile to bathe, and her attendants were walking along the riverbank, she saw the basket among the reeds and sent her slave girl to get it. She opened it and saw the baby. He was crying, and she felt sorry for him. "This is one of the Hebrew babies," she said. Then his sister asked Pharaoh's daughter, "Shall I go and get one of the Hebrew women to nurse the baby for you?" "Yes, go. Take this baby and nurse him for me, and I will pay you." So the woman took the baby and nursed him. And verse 10 says, when the baby grew older, she took him to Pharaoh's daughter, and he became her son. She named him Moses, saying, "I drew him out of the water." Bow your heads with me as we consider the subject. He's not just a man. He's not just a man. Father in heaven, we thank you for not being dead. We thank you for being alive. We thank you for being our Savior and our deliverer. And we ask that you opened our hearts and our minds to see you in a new way this morning. In your Son's name we do pray. Amen. I used to ask the question, where do babies come from? I used to think that mommy's got a 9-month vacation while daddy waited at home while the storks came and brought the babies wrapped like a burrito to the front door. And of course, the babies would come with instructions and a birth certificate. Of course, the storks would come and deliver new diapers every week and take the old diapers with them as they left. I was very surprised to find out that there was no stork and there were no instructions when I came of age to know better. What I really was asking is, where is my stork? What I really was asking, where are my instructions? Because my parents were kind of fed up with me. What I really was asking is, where do I come from? You see, when a baby is born, the hopes and dreams of the parents are given to that baby a desired destiny. The hopes and dreams are deposited into the baby before they ever take a breath. Before the test comes back positive or negative, the first and second and third time, before the ultrasound is given, before the shower is thrown, the baby has expectations laid on him or her, and they cannot escape it, and it's given in the form of potential. If I had time to talk about it this morning, I would tell you that even if you've lost a baby, whether by miscarriage, stillbirth, or otherwise, not only did you lose your baby, but you lost your hopes and dreams for them. Not only do you grieve what you've lost, but you grieve what you will fail to gain. Babies are often born with regrets from the past, uncertainty in the present, but with a hope of a brighter tomorrow. When a baby is usually in our culture, they're given a name, whether Blue Ivy or Northwest. The name is full of hopes and dreams of the parents, however ridiculous. After the baby is born, their potential is realized or not realized in the family. The seed is in the baby, but the family has the garden. Inside of the baby is an acorn with the potential to be an oak tree or just squirrel's food. But there are some acorns that are born, and they're not born into the best of situations. There are some acorns that are unplanned, unwanted, and given up before they're ever born. But every acorn needs a family. Whether a family of origin, a foster family, or adoption. One such acorn is Colin Kaepernick. Colin was born in obscurity in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. He was born as a biracial child. His birth mother was 19 years old, and she stood 6'2". Her name was Heidi Russo. She found Rick and Teresa Kaepernick, who already had 2 kids, but they lost 2 sons due to a heart defect. And the hopes and dreams she had for the baby clashed for the hopes and dreams she had for herself inside of the mind of a 19-year-old. If she would have known that he was going to be a college graduate and a millionaire, I imagine that her plans would be different. You see, if parents knew the destiny of their babies, I imagine they would do a few things differently. If they could look in a crystal ball, if Nicki Minaj's father would have known that his baby daughter would be a successful, slightly kooky musician, I imagine he would have done things differently. If LeBron James's father could see his son now, I imagine we would even know his name. You see, the baby needs the family to watch out for them and to sow into them so their potential can come out. Babies need some adults who don't live for themselves but lives for the baby. Heidi gives Colin up for adoption after bonding with him for the first 6 weeks of his life, and she says that's the most difficult thing she ever did. She said that she felt that she could not give him the life that he deserved, so she gave him to a loving family. And for the first few years of his life, he grows up in central Wisconsin. He actually writes a letter saying that he wants to be a football player. And when he's 4 years old, he moves to Turlock, California. Rick and Teresa are simple people, living near farms, working for cheese factories, albeit in upper management, but they worked in cheese factories. They can't give him all the accoutrements of life, but they give him a stable home. They give him love. They teach him a hard work ethic. He never knows his father or his mother, but he knows that he is loved, and he feels that he's destined for greatness. At the age of 9, he begins playing football and baseball. People never really understand him. His adoptive parents are white, and he is biracial, almost like a motherless child, a stranger living among strangers, never really fitting in, not really belonging, but excelling on the football and the baseball field. When he's a junior in high school, his stepbrother sends a highlight DVD of him to 100 colleges and universities, but no attention. He has several baseball scholarship offers, but Colin has wanted to play football since he was 4 years old. And he only gets one scholarship to the University of Nevada. He redshirts his freshman year, and 5 games into his second year, the quarterback gets injured. And he enters the game, and as soon as he steps on the football, he begins to amaze. And he doesn't give the ball back until he graduates in 2010 with a degree in business management. He is drafted by the San Francisco 49ers in the second round of the draft, and just like in college, doesn't play his first season. He is an afterthought to Alex Smith. They think that Alex Smith can get it done. They think that Alex Smith can take them to the promised land. They think that Alex is the answer to their hopes and the fulfillment of all of their dreams. But he can only take them to see the promised land, but he cannot seem to take them into the promised land. It's almost like they need somebody else, somebody with strength that can see through defenses. They need somebody who can both throw and pass. They need somebody who's better on his worst day than the enemy is on his best day. And so it is in the second year when Alex Smith gets injured. Colin Kaepernick takes the ball. And I don't know if you looked at the news, he hasn't given the ball back since. When they see Colin, they see someone that can take them to the promised land, navigating the minefields of the NFC. When they see him, they see someone who is head and shoulders above the rest, but have the humility to be a leader of men. That's Colin Kaepernick. When he was a baby, his parents couldn't take care of him. He has to go to a strange home, but he is still able to grow into greatness. When I think of Colin Kaepernick, I think of the main character of our story this morning. The baby is not born in Wisconsin, but the record says the baby is born in Egypt. And it says in your Bible in Exodus chapter 2 that there is a man of the tribe of Levi, and he marries a Levite woman, and she becomes pregnant and gives birth to a son. And when she sees that he's a fine child, she hides him for 3 months. Moses is a baby acorn with the potential to either be a slave or be a prince. And his mother sees greatness in him, so she hides him for 3 months. Moses doesn't know that his parents are slaves. They might be slaves, but they're smart. Moses doesn't know that his parents are slaves, but they have ingenuity. His parents are slaves, but they know what original tribe they came from. It says that he comes from the tribe of Levi. His parents will tell him that you might be a slave singing a song in a strange land, but you come from princes. When she sees him, she hides him for 90 days. When she can hide him no longer, she puts him in a basket fortified by tar and pitch to waterproof the basket, and places him among the reeds of the river Nile. Now, if you've ever been to a river with some reeds, you understand that there might be alligators there. In the Nile Delta, there are crocodiles and hippopotamuses. I probably didn't say that grammatically correct, hippopotami. But she places him in a dangerous place, but sends his sister to watch over him. She's sending her baby out into dangerous waters, but she builds a boat, to protect him from the elements and the things that would do him harm. While he is defenseless and helpless, his sister is looking out for him. His father and his mother might be slaves working in the field, but the older sister steps up to watch over him. Obviously, they time it perfectly, knowing that the Nile Delta doesn't flood much because Pharaoh's daughter is going down to bathe. And when Pharaoh's daughter sees the baby, it says that she sends her slaves to pick up the boat and sees that the baby is crying. Miriam rushes up and offers her mother's assistance in raising the rescued baby. And Pharaoh's daughter says, yes, and I'm going to pay you to do it. And when Moses gets older, Pharaoh's daughter adopts him and finally names him Moses, saying that she drew him out of the water. Now, we all saw the Prince of Egypt, and we know that Moses can sing. There can be miracles when you believe. When hope is frail, it's hard to kill. Who knows what miracles you can achieve when you believe sometimes or somehow you will. There are many things you can do if you believe. Moses takes the belief that his parents have placed inside of him, and when he's an adult, he marches into Pharaoh's palace and says with a loud voice, in Exodus chapter 5, verse 1, this is what the Lord, the God of Israel says, let my people go. He doesn't have a helmet, but he has a cloak. He cannot throw a spiral, but the brother can handle a rod. He treats the Egyptians like rookie linebackers. When the Egyptians see him and they see what he can do, they think in their minds, he's not just a man. When the Israelites see him, they no longer see a baby, they see somebody greater. He's not just an acorn anymore. He has become an oak tree. We don't know where he comes from. He says he's one of us. But when I see the rod, when I listen to his words, when I see the miracles, I see and I understand that he's more than what the natural eye can see. He's more than what the natural mind can believe. God has sent him to deliver us. He comes to an enslaved people. We aren't expecting him, but we're looking for him. We don't know what he'll look like. We never think it would be him. But when he comes to Pharaoh and says, let my people go, here is a young boy, for all he knew, he was given up for dead by his parents. Here is a young boy, for all he knew, was abandoned by his mother and his father. Here is a young boy who was crying while being thrown into the river. Here is a young boy who is now a man who didn't know his real parents. Here is a young boy who's shooting for stakes higher than a Super Bowl. Here is a young boy, he's not trying to lead a team. He's not trying to lead a city. The brother is trying to lead a nation. Here is a young boy who is misunderstood by his own people. He has to go into the wilderness to get all of his gifts together. He came into the world as a baby, but because he was in the right family, his earthly parents, they did the best they could. They were slaves. But when he meets his real father in the burning bush on Mount Horeb, Moses becomes the prince of Egypt. Who would have known all of that would come in the form of a baby? Now, some of you all, you may not have studied biology, but I've come to understand something about babies. They come into the world in three different ways. Mammals, that is. You have mammals that lay eggs that are delivered by being hatched. They're called monotremes. That's a big word. I didn't know what that was until last week. Monotremes are mammals that lay eggs. Then you have mammals that are born as joeys. They stay in their mommy's belly for 4 or 5 weeks, and when they're born, they crawl over their mommy's chest into a pouch. And they stay in mommy's pouch up to a year. Life is all about being in mommy's pouch for about 9 months. The best examples of them are koala bears and kangaroos. They're called marsupials. Human beings aren't monotremes or marsupials, but they're placentals. Human babies develop in their mommy's belly for 9 months, and they are delivered, come to find out, by doctors, not by storks. Wouldn't it be great if all babies would come like the E-Trade baby and give tips for retirement and investment? Babies are amazing, and they have the potential to do amazing things, but they need the right family to bring it all together. They need the right fertilizer to cultivate the gifts inside of the seed that God has placed in them. Jeremiah chapter 1 verse 5 says, "Before I formed you in the womb, I knew you. Before you were born, I set you apart. I appointed you to be a prophet to the nations." Not only do your mommy and daddy have hopes for you before you're born, but God has hopes for you. God has dreams for you before you're ever born, and he gives you a family to make those dreams become reality. Not everybody can be a quarterback. We can try, but everybody can be a Moses. Moses doesn't know that Pharaoh will act like Ray Lewis. Moses doesn't know that Pharaoh will be like John Harbaugh and his magicians will do some tricks to get him sidetracked. God will have to rain down plagues to free his people before they can go into the promised land. Moses leads his team through the regular season when they come out of Egypt. Moses leads his team through the playoffs when he brings them to and through the Red Sea. But when they come to the Super Bowl of Canaan, when the time came to punch the ball in, Moses was unable. And we find out that Moses is just a man. He is a mortal. Israel needs more than just a man. Israel needs another baby. When I think Moses, I think of another baby. A baby not born in Egypt, but he's born on Krypton. A baby born to Jor-El and Laura, and the baby's name is Kal-El, the first natural birth on Krypton in centuries. On Krypton, babies are manufactured with a predetermined status of leader, warrior, or scientist. But Jor-El has hopes and dreams for his baby, and his hopes and dreams are greater than Krypton. He wants his baby to be more than what society intended. Krypton is decaying and falling apart. The core is crumbling and the planet is dying. Jor-El and Laura come up with a plan to put their baby in a ship and to send him to Earth before the planet falls. Jor-El knows that this child is special and that Earth will revere him as a god. And he knows ahead of time that his son will be an outcast, that his son will be rejected. But his father gives him all of his hopes and all of his dreams. Kale's mother puts him in a ship to send him to Earth so he can continue the people of Krypton. And when he's placed in the ship, his father takes all of the hopes and dreams of an entire people and hides it in the baby's DNA. And he sends Cal to Earth to preserve his people. But Krypton's military leader, General Zod, vows to find him so he can preserve his planet. When Cal reaches Earth, he is rescued by a family in Smallville, Kansas. They go to the ship and they see the baby crying. They adopt him and begin to raise him as their own. No storks bring him. He just falls out of the sky. They give him the name Clark, and he becomes a part of their family. As Clark gets older, he senses that he is different from the other kids. When Clark gets older, he sees that he can do more than the other young boys and young girls, like pushing buses out of rivers. Teenagers bully him. At school, nobody eats with him. They call him a freak. I imagine some social workers and psychologists would want to label him, put him in special ed, and want to medicate him. Some would call him strange, but some would call him super. His father tells him, if the world knew who you really was, they would reject you. If the world knew who you really was, they would poke you and prod you, and you would become a science experiment. He's an only child, and his best friend is a dog that somehow lives for 33 years. His mother and father do the best that they can, teaching him the ways of how to be human. After his father is killed, he leaves home trying to remain anonymous. But when people need his help, for some reason he can't help himself. He's always helping strangers in need. When he finally meets his real father on the Genesis ship, he learns about his past. When he finally meets his father, he learns where he really comes from. When he finally meets his father, or a shadow of his father, he sees what he is really meant to be. And the acorn that was inside of him as a baby becomes a mighty oak tree dressed in a cape, and a superhero was born. All the while, General Zod is looking for galaxies and stars, looking for Kal-El. When Kal finds the alien ship, a beacon is sent out, and General Zod comes to Earth. He brings the war and dysfunction of Krypton to Earth to colonize the Earth and to make it Krypton again. Earth is threatened, and there is nothing that the human armies can do. There is nothing that the naval warships can do. There are no missiles that the Marines can shoot. The Earth needs a hero, but they don't want the one that they got. Cal's father gives him a mission to save the human family. And when Cal reveals himself to the world, people ask him, where did you come from? When he finally reveals himself to the world, people ask him, what are your motives? When he finally reveals himself to the world, they don't believe him. They don't accept him. They don't even listen to him. They are afraid of him, but when they get in trouble, they don't call him, but they look for him. You see, Batman is in Gotham. Flash is in Central City. We don't know where the Green Lantern is. Wonder Woman, we don't know where she is. Aquaman is just scary. But when they're falling from a plane, when buildings are falling on them, when they're trapped in burning buses, the one that they rejected comes flying through to save the day. The one that they didn't want ends up being the hero that they actually need. When they see Superman, they see that he's not just a man. He can leap tall buildings with a single jump. He can break sound barrier by just thinking. He's not just a man. When people see him, they look up in the sky and they think, maybe he's a plane, maybe he's a bird, but he has to be more than just mortal. When I see him, I'm afraid of him. I can't look in his face, but I get goosebumps in his presence. because the building almost fell on me. General Zod almost took me out, but this mysterious person stepped in and helped me when I needed help. He says he can be my man of steel. When he finally defeats General Zod and Metropolis has a hero, there is peace and tranquility. But I don't live in Metropolis. What if I need him here in California? What if he comes to help me and my cousin Ray Ray and my aunt Junebug need him on the other side of town? Who's gonna help them? I need another baby. Can Superman be cloned? Moses is dead. Colin Kaepernick is good, but he can't give me what I need. I can look up to them, I can admire them, but I need another baby. Krypton is destroyed. So I go from hospital to hospital looking for another baby. Will he fall from the sky? But I hear in the distance, beyond San Francisco, beyond Egypt, beyond the destroyed planet of Krypton, I hear somebody saying, I have another baby. I have another baby that's going to put all of the hopes and dreams of an entire race of people inside of this baby. I have another baby. I have a baby that have more than potential. It says, for unto us a child would be born. Unto us a son would be given, and the government would be upon his shoulders. And his name wouldn't be Superman. His name would be called Wonderful. His name wouldn't be Colin Kaepernick, but his name would be Counselor. His name wouldn't be Moses, but his name would be Mighty God. God says, I have another baby. His name would be Everlasting Father, Prince of Peace. And the increase of his government would be on his shoulders, on a baby's shoulders. God says, I'm going to give you another baby. And he will look like you. He will eat like you. But you won't receive him. He'll have two fathers and a teenage mother, and you'll just wonder where he came from. He'll have stepbrothers that will misuse him. He'll have church people that will confuse him. He will have a tattered world that will abuse him. But his mother will keep him straight. You will reject him, make fun of him, and even try to kill him. But when you need him, you will call him. And when you want him, he will come to you. When John sees him, he says, behold the Lamb of God. When the church sees him cast out demons with the word, they say with authority he can drive out unclean spirits. When they see him heal a paralyzed man, they say we've never seen anything like this. When the disciples see Jesus calming the winds and the waves, they said, what manner of man is this, that even the winds and the waves obey him? The winds that are threatening my life, the waves that are threatening my peace, the things that I'm afraid of, the things that I cannot control, the things that make me fall asleep at night and leave on a nightlight in the corner. He can speak to those things. He's not just a man. I'm afraid of him, but when I need him, he comes to me. I may not understand him, but I don't want him to leave. He's sort of like me, but at the same time, he's not like me. Why? He's not just a man. They said that he would be someone people could strive for, someone people could emulate, someone people could press toward the mark. But I don't need an example. I don't need a tutor. I don't need a mentor. I need a savior. I need someone that can not just get me out of tight jams and tight fixes. I don't need someone that can just get cats out of trees. I need somebody that can look inside of me with x-ray vision and see everything that's wrong with me, and not just save me from General Zod, but they can save me from the sin that's in my nature. I need somebody who's not just a man. I need God. General Zod, he can't restrain him. America, with all of their things, they cannot detain him. And kryptonite cannot contain him. They said that the military cannot strain him. The government cannot arraign him. And Krypton, where he came from, it cannot sustain him. Why? Because he's not just a man. Jerusalem cannot understand him. The Pharisees, they cannot ban him. And his family, with all of their good intentions, they cannot brand him because he's not just a man. He's God. He made the world, but the world doesn't know him. He has a natural birth, but his birth isn't natural. His mother changing his diapers while at the same time he's changing his mother's heart. His mother gave him oxygen in the tomb. His mother gave him oxygen when he was in the womb. But when he comes forth from the grave, he gives her salvation. You see, his father can teach him how to build a chair, but Jesus controlled his father's mind by trying to teach him how to build the world, because he's not just a man. Science cannot fathom him. Philosophy cannot unravel him. Evolution cannot master him because he's not just a man. The people try to get Jesus to show how much more of a man he is. The devil said, if you're the Son of God, if you're the man of steel, turn these stones into bread. If you're more than a man, prove it with a miracle. Do some abracadabra. We already know that you can break the laws of physics and walk on liquid surfaces. We already know that you can touch death and make it life. We already know that you're more than a man, but prove to me that you're God. Prove to me that you're the one who said you were before Abram. Prove to me, Jesus, that you're the man of steel. Prove to me that you are the I am. Prove to me that you are who you say you are. Make a case for yourself, Jesus. Prove to me that you are the one who spoke and it was done. Prove to me that you're the one who commanded and it stood fast. Make a case for yourself that you're the one who said, let there be light. Put all the cards on the table and make a case for my examination that you're the one who put the sun on day shift and the moon on night shift, and neither has missed a day of work. Prove to me beyond a reasonable doubt that you're more than just a man. Jesus said, I don't have to prove myself to you. I don't have to work a miracle for you. I don't have to work magic for you. What I'm going to do is be misunderstood. What I'm going to do is be rejected. And hear me, I'm going to have all of the power of heaven and earth in my hand, but I'm not going to use it. I don't need to prove to you that I'm more than just a man. I know exactly who I am because I come from the right family. It's not the S in my chest. It's not me walking on water. It's not me multiplying the fish and the loaves. The power is not in the cape. The power is in the wounds in my hands and the holes in my side. That's what will show you that I'm different. After you arrest me, after you betray me, after you kill me, after you put me at the bottom of your feet, I will come back to you and say it's not about power. It's not about where I come from. It's not about me working miracles and doing the abracadabra. It's not about me walking on water. It's about love. You see, I can fascinate your mind or I can capture your heart. You see, I can do what Colin Kaepernick cannot do. I can do what Moses cannot do. I can do what Superman cannot do. I can lose for you. I can be defeated for you. I can die for you and be hopeless for you. And when it looks like I'm just a man, I can come back with the keys of death, hell, and the grave. And there's nothing Ray Lewis can do. There's nothing Pharaoh can do. There's nothing General Zod can do. There is nothing Satan can do that can defeat me. I can be your man of steel. The question is, do you want an example? Do you want someone you can admire? Or do you want a hero? Do you want someone who can do miracles? Or do you want somebody that can change you for eternity? Do you want someone who can come to you the way he came to John and say, I'm the root and the offspring of David? Do you want the one who says, I'm the bright and the morning star? Do you want the one who can say, I'm walking in the middle of the golden candlesticks, but I'm right by your side, I'm your brother in tribulation, I'm holding you in the palm of my hand? Let Superman do that. Do you want somebody who can just capture your mind? Or do you want somebody that can save your soul? So if you want a hero, you can go to San Francisco and meet Colin Kaepernick. But Colin can throw incompletes. We know that all too well. You can have Moses if you live in the desert. You can go to Smallville or Metropolis and meet Clark Kent, but he has kryptonite. Or you can take Jesus. Just him, that's it. No one beside him, no Justice League helping him, no one above him, no army backing him up, no politicians interceding for him, no Lois Lane teaching him, no rival to him. He can be your man of steel. But it's only him and nobody else. There are two people that intrigue us. Not y'all, but other people. I know y'all don't know who Brad Pitt and Angelina Jolie is. But there are these two famous people. If you've never met them, there's a picture of them. They're very famous. They make some weird movies. But a lot of people pay them a lot of attention. Angelina Jolie just had a double mastectomy and has become an example of women who may be fighting cancer. Brad Pitt, for some reason, has become an example of the earth fighting zombies, which makes no sense. They've donated millions of dollars to help rebuild New Orleans. They contracted with the universities there in New Orleans for undergrad architects to design these elaborate houses that sit on 20 feet of wood. So when hurricanes come, people can keep their homes. They do a lot of good with their money. They have millions of Twitter followers. But one of the most remarkable things that they've done is go to different parts of the world and adopt orphan babies. Now, they get in trouble. People criticize. But nobody who's criticizing will step up and go to the places that they go and adopt these orphan babies. I don't know about you, but if I had millions of dollars and I was fine doing me and I had my family and I had my notoriety, there is no way on God's green earth that I would go to a foreign country and adopt some strange kids. But then I began to think, wait a minute. I was adopted at least twice, and I know what it's like to be a young baby in need of adoption. They asked Angelina, why would you want these babies? Nobody would want them. Some of them have special needs. Some parts of the world you go to, you can get communicable and infectious diseases just by picking up the babies. Angelina says, they don't have anybody. They're there defenseless and helpless. Somebody's got to help them. They don't have anything, but I have everything. I want to adopt them and bring them back to my house and put all of my hopes and all of my dreams and deposit it in them so they can be better than the previous generation. When I think about adoption, I think about God. That God would see us just like Moses, just like Colin, just like Kal-El, would see these defenseless babies who cannot help themselves, who left to their own devices would die. And he's come up with a plan. And he says, I need some babies. I need some people to adopt. I need some people to spoil. I need some people to bring in my house. And the devil looks and asks why. And God says, I don't know. They have a need. And I have all of this space in my house. I have to fill it with these orphan kids. I don't know about you, but when Jesus came to this earth, he came with one mission: to seek and save all of the lost babies. I don't know about you, but that pertains to every single person under the sound of my voice. God saw you before you were born. God saw you when you were born, and he knows everything about you. And he says, you don't just need a mentor. I've had those. You don't just need an advocate. What you need is a hero. What you need is somebody that can come to you when you're down and rescue you when you're down and out. Is there such a person who needs Jesus to be their hero today? If you're such a person, I invite you to stand to your feet. I'm going to pray a special prayer just for you. You need him to be your hero. You need him to be your man of steel. I invite you to stand to your feet. I'm going to pray a special prayer just for you. You may be like me. Didn't know your mother or your father. But hear me. God has a special destiny for you. God has a special plan for your life, and he wants to give it to you. If you're such a person that wants God's hopes and God's dreams deposited into them, come to the front. I'm going to pray a special prayer and blessing just for you. You want God's dreams and hopes deposited in you so you can be the boy and the girl that God created you to be. Is there such a person? You want God to be your hero. You want God to be your man of steel. I invite you to come to the front. I'm going to pray a special prayer just for you. You want him to come when you call. You want him to be there when you need him. And God says, I can be everything to you that you need me to be. Because I was a baby like you. I was a teenager like you. I come from a single parent home just like you. He says, I can be your man of steel. Is there another? Is there another? Bow your heads with me. Father in heaven, we look at Justice League and we see different people. We see Aquaman and Flash and Green Lantern and Wonder Woman and Batman and Superman. But God, we need somebody greater. God, they make us thirsty for what we really need. We admire them. We hope that we could be like them. But when we try to do it, we realize that we're just men. We're just women. We're just boys and just girls. But God, we need you to be our hero. We need you to be our deliverer. God, I ask that you would go to each person here under the sound of my voice. Be their man of steel. Each boy and each girl, I ask right now that you would put your destiny, your dreams, and all of your hopes for them, put it inside of them in the form of an acorn. And God, I ask that you surround them with the right people so they can become the oak trees that you destined for them to be. God, that is our prayer, and that is our plea. And if you need God to be your man of steel, just respond by saying amen. God bless you.